There is only love. And isn't that beautiful to hear? I'm Susan Clark, and I'm a practitioner here at Suncoast. I know most of you. I don't know all of you. And Tim Ham was scheduled to speak this morning, and I got a phone call Friday afternoon late from a phone number I didn't recognize. It was a 727 number, and I didn't pick it up. And there was no message. And I thought, well, good. They didn't leave me a message, and immediately the phone rang again, and it was the same number, so I said hello. And it was Tim Ham saying, I really need a favor. I am sick. I am really, really sick. I have a high fever. I can't speak Sunday. Will you do it for me? And my small self over here said a few words like, Tim, you don't understand. It takes me too long to get ready. I don't even have time to worry about this. I can't do this. And on the other side, my spiritual self was hearing Reverend Susie's message from last week. Does anybody, I know some of you remember what it was. It's easy. You don't have to make it hard. And I have made, when she said that, I thought, I was afraid people were going to turn around and point, because that's the story of my life. Working hard, making it hard, recounting how hard it is. And I can tell you how hard being up here is for me. And it really takes about 6 weeks of preparation. It's 2 weeks of worry. And then I start figuring out what I want to say, and I write it, and I rewrite it, and I cross it out, and then the last 2 weeks, everything comes off my schedule, and I rehearse, and I redo it, and I mean, it is really hard. So I think I did say, Tim, I'm busy all day Saturday. I don't have time to get ready for this. And he said, I'm really sick, please. And I heard myself saying yes, with Reverend Susie's message in my mind. This does not have to be hard. And I remember the first time I spoke here. I had been working for 6 weeks, lots of worry, lots of fretting, not claiming my own power. And just before I was going up front, I went to the bathroom and I was having a meltdown. I mean, I got cold and clammy all over. My hands were shaking, and they're probably shaking now, but they were really shaking then. And Gordon had invited his granddaughter from Fort Lauderdale, who was in town, to come hear me speak. And she came into the bathroom and she said, what's the matter, Susan? And I said, I'm melting down. I don't think I can do this. I'm so nervous. And she said, well, how long have you been studying this? And I said, well, I've been working like 6 weeks getting ready for this talk, and I just can't even remember any of the words now. And she said, no, I'm talking about that stuff you teach here. And I said, oh, the science of the Bible, 15 or 20 years. And she said, well, you should know what you're talking about. And that snapped it for me, that snapped it. And I said, well, of course, Carly, I do know what I'm talking about. So this morning I'm not fully prepared, but I do know what I'm talking about. And that worry and that anxiety that I create for myself, I think is any time I'm not claiming the power and the presence that is within me. When I get out into my small self, I can get very anxious, and I worry about how I'm going to do and how I'm going to look, and proving that I'm worthy. And what I know is that we are all worthy, just as we are. There is nothing to prove. So yesterday morning early, I had about 2 hours to spend on this. And I pulled out a book that has resonated with me. It's a small book written by Reverend Georgia Prescott, who is a religious science minister in California. The book is called Powerful or Powerless. And it is blending the 12 steps with the principles of science of mind. And I have read this book and highlighted it, so I started reading it again. And before I talk about the book, I want to tell you all a story, because this has certainly been me, and I suspect it's been many of us here. And you may have heard this, but it's still a good story. First, I walk down the street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes a long time to get out. Second, I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I am in the same place, but it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Third, I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in that sidewalk. I see it is there. I fall in. It's a habit. But my eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. Fourth, I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Fifth, I walk down a different street. We have a choice in life, and we can choose to walk down a different street. So how many times have you done something that's not good for you? Drank too much, eaten too much dessert, eaten a whole bag of potato chips, gotten in a relationship with someone who was just like your last partner and only the face had changed, or argued with somebody about the same thing over and over and over. And how many times have you told yourself you wouldn't do it again? And how many times have you done it again and again and again? I'd like to think that that isn't me, that I make a mistake one time and learn from it and make a better choice next time. But that really hasn't been my life story. And I bet it's happened to you too. I think most of us could be in recovery from something. There could be something you do that's unhealthy, whether it's physical, mental, spiritual, something that's unhealthy for you, but you do it anyway. It could be a big thing or it could be a small thing. And you wish you didn't do it, and you say, I'm not going to do it, but you just can't seem to stop doing it. I think most of us have habits that no longer serve us. No longer serve us. And it's not addiction in a clinical sense, but there are things we do when we're feeling uncomfortable to take us away from how we're feeling. I've always had a hard time embracing difficult feelings. For me, the word feelings is an F word. You know, I just would rather not deal with it. And I know they're not either bad or good. They just are what they are. They come and they go. But I know that intellectually, but I hate feeling sad. I don't know what to do when I feel sad. And maybe the healthiest thing to do would be to just sit with it and let it be and see what comes up and just allow it, knowing that I'm always surrounded by God's love, that I'm filled with that presence. But when I feel sad, I will eat, I will go shopping. Having a glass of wine's out of the question for me, but I'll work and work and work. I'll get on the computer, I'll stay on Facebook for 2 hours. I do anything to distract myself. Am I speaking to someone here? So, most of us are like that. We have things we do that take us away to block the feelings that we have. And that might be called addictive behavior, because we know it's not the best thing for us, but we keep doing it anyway. One thing many of us are addicted to is our minds. We think we can figure things out. We think and think and think, trying to figure out what's going on and how we can change it. And we get stuck in thinking the same thing over and over, but we can't stop. And we think we're right. We are so right. We're convinced we're right. We're addicted to being right. We're not open to see life any other way than the way we're thinking right now. In fact, we're so right, we know how another person should be living their life and what they should be doing. I mean, that's just how it is. And a second addiction, and perhaps the largest one that human beings seem to suffer from, is the idea that we are in control, that we can control absolutely everything. And it's a madness of living that way, because control is an optical delusion. We all know that life happens to us. Things happen to us that we don't want to happen. I mean, we get sick, we have relationships break up, we have jobs end. Life happens. There's family members that we have that aren't living the way we want them to be living. But what I've learned is, as long as I focus on controlling life around me, trying to control it, I have no opportunity to truly live life and to be present to life and to be present with what's going on in my life. So as life happens to us, we know that, and it feels like suffering. When things happen that we don't like, it feels like we are suffering. And indeed, we may be suffering from it. But we get to stop that pain and choose our thoughts. What do we learn here? Change your thinking, change your life. We are not powerless. We get to choose how we react to the things that occur in our lives. And we have that thought that we have to have everything our way in order to be happy. When real happiness comes from that inside place, from knowing that we are one with Spirit, that we're not alone. You know, New Thought is the philosophy that we teach here at Suncoast Center for Spiritual Living. And it started in the 19th century in the United States with an individual unification. The focus was an individual unification with a higher power or an inner power. And this unification is not something we strive for and we have to work hard to get. If we just read the right books, maybe we'll be one with Spirit. That's not the truth. We are already one with Spirit. We are already unified. And no matter how much we've messed up in our lives, we are still one with God, one with Source, one with wisdom. And our only work is to remember that, And that's when our recovery from these habitual thought patterns or behaviors, that's when we can make the change. You know, our longing for wholeness, that wholeness that we all seek. I went through a lot of my life feeling like I had this hole inside, like something was missing. And it was a God-sized hole, and that's what I found. So that longing for wholeness can only be filled with the realization that we are already whole. God did not make a mistake when we were created. God did not make a mistake when you were created. God did not create you and say, oops, let that one slip through. That's not who we are. We were all created to be whole, perfect, and complete. That is our truth, and that's our job, is to remember that. When we come from that place of separation, we imagine that the only way to fill that hole inside, or that sense of separation, is to further blur our vision with whatever does it for us. It could be alcohol, it could be work, it could be pills, it could be potato chips. That's mine. Shopping, sex, gambling. We are so creative in the ways we try to fill that hole inside us. And it's a hole that does not exist. It is a hole that does not exist. So we can borrow from the 12-step recovery. And the 12 steps are a spiritual program. The 12th step is having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Now, my sponsor, who died last year, Ginger, said that when she got to that 12th step and she learned that she got to practice these principles in all our affairs, her first thought was, well, at least I get to have affairs. That's not what I'm talking about. That is not it. So I want to talk about the first two steps today, and I use these steps in my life every day. Ginger taught me whenever I would call her complaining about something, she would say, well, hon, you need to listen to you need to work the steps on this. You need to work the steps on this. And I got so sick of hearing that. I must have heard it 1,000 times. I didn't want to hear that anymore. And it is such a blessing in my life today. Because whenever I get stuck with thinking I know that's not serving me, I know what to do about it. These steps have worked for millions of people with clinical addictions, and I know that they will work in your life too. Step one, this is how they were originally written. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step two, came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. Now, I've modified these steps to use in my daily life. Admitted I am powerless over blank, and you fill in the blank. And my life had become unmanageable. Admitted I am powerless over my coworkers, and my life has become unmanageable. Admitted I am powerless over my friends' behavior, and my life has become unmanageable. And when I say blank, you fill it in, whatever is bothering you at that time. And if you don't think your life has become unmanageable, substitute again and say, I am powerless over my coworkers and my thoughts have become unmanageable. I think we can all identify with that, and the truth is that if your thoughts remain unmanageable, sooner or later your life's going to be unmanageable. It's a natural progression there. And when we spot ourselves doing something that we don't want to do, we spot ourselves having thoughts that we know we don't want to have, we know they're not creating the good we want in our lives. That is a huge success. And yet I think most of us would react, I know that I have for so long reacted and said, oh my God, Susan, you're never going to get it right. You're doing it again and again and again. How long have you been trying to change this? Rather than saying, well, congratulations, you spotted it. And when you spot it, you can do something about it. That is a point of great success and really celebrating yourself and celebrating your own growth. And that's what we want. We want growth. Step two, came to believe that a power greater than myself, or perhaps an inner power, could restore me to sanity. When I do that, I write these down when I'm doing them. It's better to get it out of my head and write it down. When I write that down, my first thought is usually, oh, I forgot all about God. I forgot about asking for help. I forgot to do a spiritual mind treatment about this. I was just keeping it inside and keeping it going. So we need to realize that we may be powerless over some of our thinking or our addictions, and also know that God is present. right here, right now, that we have the strength and the courage to move forward. So which are we? Are we powerful? Are we powerless? The first step uses that word powerless, and I've used it several times. How can I admit that I am powerless and still be a religious scientist creating my life? But I can tell you, admitting you're powerless is the most powerful thing you will ever do, because that is the process of surrender. And in our teaching, we know that we are not surrendering to the presence in the sky that's up there looking down, frowning. We are surrendering to our own inner wisdom, to what we already know. We are never alone. We are always guided and supported. That divine wisdom that is within us is there for us to use. So when we can let go and surrender that mind that thinks it's always right, that it's always in control, that things are always going to be the way I want them to be, we open the door for that love and the compassion and the potential and the possibilities for a joy-filled life. We open that door and we can walk through it. And what we need to do is to plug in to that source that is always present. If we compare our spiritual power to electrical power, we know that when we're plugged in, the lights work, all the appliances work, the lights come on. In fact, life is great when we're plugged in. But when we unplug, the hairdryer doesn't work, the microwave doesn't work, and our lives just don't work. And this can be a very, very dark place. The electricity or the spiritual power did not go away. It was always the same. The only thing that changed was our awareness of it, our ability to feel unified with it. So we need to plug in and stay plugged in. This is the truth, that we have to do this. So as we look at the 12 steps this morning, the first 2 steps, we admitted we were powerless over blank, and our lives have become unmanageable, or our thoughts have become unmanageable. When we admit that we are powerless over life, that is when we become more plugged in spiritually, and we can claim and know and accept that we are powerful beyond measure. And that's the truth of who we are. Admitting that we are powerless over our addictions or our harmful thought patterns, our habitual, our obsessions, is the signal that we are ready to grow in a way that we have never grown before. And that is so exciting, admitting that you are powerless over these things that cause life to be dark for you. Admitting that and moving on to the second step, knowing that there is an inner wisdom that is always present, that is the light and is the power. It's not weakness to admit that you are powerless in your small self, and you're not letting God down. When we speak of that step in our hearts, we know that we have the power. We have the power of the one source. It is always available to us. That is so great. As we move toward freedom from addiction, whether it's a clinical addiction or whether it's a thinking addiction or an obsession or a desire to be in control or to figure it out, it doesn't have to be a battle. And I make it a battle sometimes. But what I know is the degree of difficulty corresponds to the resistance I have in my life to change. That resistance that where I don't want to admit that I am powerless. My small self is powerless. When you surrender your personal human power, you begin that process of recognizing your unity with all of life, with the real power. Maybe, like I did, you thought that you were fooling people, that people in church, people that you work with, friends, maybe even family members, you thought that you were fooling them about any addiction or any compulsion or any bad thinking that you had going on. But the truth is, we weren't fooling ourselves. We did not have a life that Spirit could use. And when we embrace the teachings of New Thought wisdom, we understand that we are each here for a sacred purpose. And that purpose is not getting the next drink or the next pill or blurring the next cupcake or potato chip, blurring your life. It is to be present with what we have been given. This is our sacred purpose, is to walk forward with an open heart and an open mind, sharing and using the gifts that we have been given. And we are each unique. So we accept that we are a sacred being, whole, perfect, and complete. This is our truth, and we know that. We weren't sit here to just get by. We were sent here to shine and to walk forward with all of our gifts. We are here to represent the power of good in the world. And I see a bunch of shining lights out here right now. It is so exciting to be up here. You know, affirmations, and I think we all use them. If you're doing affirmations that say, I have power over my drinking, or I have power over my thinking, and that is working for you, great. But don't put your life on hold, waiting for them to work if it's not working for you. It's time to take action and to make some changes. And it's surrendering that human self, that fearful human self, to our spiritual selves. To our spiritual selves. And recognizing that your ego self, that small self, is powerless. And claiming the power, the great power that is always available for us to use. So as we think about making changes in our life, I have an affirmation. I'm going to read it to you, and then I'm going to read it back and let you say it with me. So I'll read it all the way through. Today I let go and let God. I understand it is not I, but Spirit within me, who gives me the strength to understand that I am whole, complete, and perfect, just as I am. I release anything that keeps me small with grace and ease. I am enough. I am plugged in today. You ready to say it with me? Yes. Today I let go and let God.
Today I let go and let God.
I understand it is not I, but Spirit within me.
I understand it is not I, but Spirit within me.
Who gives me the strength to understand.
Who gives me the strength to understand.
That I am whole, complete, and perfect, just as I am.
That I am whole, complete, and perfect, just as I am.
I release anything that keeps me small.
I release anything that keeps me small.
With grace and ease.
With grace and ease.
I am enough. I am plugged in today.
I am enough. I am plugged in today.
And I know that's the truth. It's the truth in my life, and I know it is the truth in yours. Namaste.
Namaste.